Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jess, and today at Live UTI Free, we're talking about using neuroplasticity and soothing skills to manage recurrent UTI symptoms. Our guest for this three-part series is the wonderful Evelyn Hecht, and in this first video, she shares how the fight or flight part of our nervous system can get overwhelmed by physical, chemical, or psychological trauma, and how this can relate to persistent UTI symptoms. Some of you may be familiar with this concept if you've noticed certain patterns with your UTI symptoms. So you'll want to pay attention to some of the tips that Evelyn shares on how to create new patterns in the brain and nervous system to manage symptoms. I also wanted to mention that during the fall of 2022, we're looking for participants for a patient perspective survey. This will help clinicians better understand the patient experience of persistent UTI. So if you haven't looked at that, click the link in the video or in the description below to participate. Lastly, if you enjoy these videos, think they're important, and want to support what we do, be sure to hit subscribe and tick the bell so you get notified when we post new videos. Other than that, thanks again for joining us on this journey to bettering women's health everywhere, and enjoy the video.
If you have a system that's been overly sensitive and sending lots of threat messages to the brain gets overrun with these messages and says, oh, I have to step up my protective mechanism. You know what? I'm not going to weed out anything. I'm just going to send her signals of distress. I started the first pelvic physical therapy practice in New York City about 27 years ago, as so many of my patients before that were asking me their private questions about bladder, bowel, and sexual health. But one thing I noticed in over 15, 20 years of practicing was that many patients were not getting either pelvic physical therapy help, couldn't afford it, so I wanted to find a way that they could learn the skills to improve their pelvic health through an online platform. So I became a founder of PelvicSense, my online pelvic healing home program. I hope my presentation on Live UTI Free inspires you and encourages you that healing is always possible. I receive a lot of questions from patients with urinary tract infection. This is what Jennifer writes. For the past 10 years, I've been dealing with urinary tract infections, urgency, frequency that seems to be worsening. I've seen good doctors, taken medications, but while this helps short term, it doesn't prevent my bladder issues from returning. I've noticed though that my symptoms rear up when I'm under a lot of stress. I want to get off this merry-go-round. Is there anything I could do? So yes, Jennifer, there is so much that you can do. The first thing is good for you that you've seen your medical doctor, because you do want to make sure there's no active infection. If there isn't an infection and you've noticed that your symptoms are worsening when you're in high levels of stress, this shows that your nervous and immune systems might be overly sensitive. Now, the job of the nervous and immune system is to send information to the brain. The brain's job is to protect you, to make sure that you are safe. And if the nervous and immune system has become overly sensitive, it's now on more of the lookout for threats. We are wired as humans to be aware of danger and aware of threat. Now, threat does not have to be just physical threats. Threat can be emotional. I feel fearful and worried today. Psychological. I'm never going to get better. And social. I didn't have a great interaction with my husband the other day. I'm worried about that. All these are adding to the threat information that the nervous system and immune system, now overly sensitive, now shoot to the brain. The brain in a normal, healthy body will assess these messages and determine, is she really under threat, and do I have to send her signals of distress to get her moving? Or you know what, I'm just going to ignore it. But if you have a system that's been overly sensitive and sending lots of threat messages to the brain gets overrun with these messages and says, oh, I have to step up my protective mechanism. You know what, I'm not going to weed out anything. I'm just going to send her signals of distress. And for women with urinary tract infection, It typically is a sensation of urge. So, do you know that story in Harry Potter, the first movie, when the invitations that Harry got to go to Hogwarts is trying to get into the uncle's house? The uncle refused it, and then all of a sudden there are reams of letters flying through the letterbox of the house, cascading down the chimney, pouring out through the fireplace. Well, this is what happens when the brain is overrun with threat messages. So what does that have to do with me? How can I have any say over this process? Well, you do have a say, because what we've learned is that this is a learned pattern. As I said, we are wired to look out for threat. But what if we gave a little bit more soothing techniques to our nervous and immune system? And how do I do that? So part of soothing is mental, psychological. So when you first wake up in the morning, instead of going right to that worry about your day and can I manage something and will my urgency be back today, how about thinking about something that you're grateful for? The way that you feel lying in bed, you had a great night's sleep, or that you love living in the environment in the house that you're in now. And also being more aware of your self-criticism. A second thing is to be more self-compassionate. When you give yourself compliments, when you say, you know, I did a really good job today, your brain floods your body with that dopamine. Another technique would be to go out and walk in nature, even just for 15 minutes. Being out in nature without using your phone, your senses get very calm, very in tune, and that sends safety to your nervous and immune system, and therefore to your brain. The other technique would be to pet your cat and dog, because when you do that, your brain releases that love hormone, oxytocin, and your pet also gets some of that too. So these are some of the techniques, along with movement and along with breath techniques, to help send signals of safety to your nervous and immune system throughout your day. You don't need to be sitting on a rock in India to get this feeling of calm. I also would like to give you my copy of my ebook, Heal Your Pelvic Pain with Science. This is a wonderful first step to understand, why does my brain send me signals of distress? And more importantly, what can I do to reverse this pattern? Because it is a learned pattern that can be unlearned. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy my ebook.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful and paid attention to Evelyn's tips for using the concept of neuroplasticity to help manage UTI symptoms, particularly if you've noticed some of the patterns that she mentioned. Be sure to skip back to the last 2 minutes if you missed it. If you'd like to learn more about this and related topics, make sure to check out the second and third part of the series when we release them in the coming weeks. In the meantime, you may be interested in Melissa's interview with health psychologist Dr. Sula Windgassen, as well as a really important article about negative UTI tests. We'll put the links for both of these in the video description. Of course, if you like what we're doing on this channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and tick the bell so you get notifications about future videos. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, keep educating yourself so you can advocate for yourself.